There's one missing though.
Oh, is there one missing? Sorry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge we are in Treaty One territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'm going to introduce the panel members that are joining me tonight, Diane Knight and Clay Pervez, and myself, I'm chairing. My name is Mike Caltruglio. From the assessment department, we have Kem Wong, and the administrative personnel tonight, we have Fran Picotto and Twinkle Sharma. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak in respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. You'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. Statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and city administration. It makes its decision on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if matter pertains to application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applicants have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 6 on our docket today. Ms. Picotto, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Kem Wong.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Henry DuPont.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Wong, I see we are starting at 175 Greenway Crescent West. And I also see that you have a recommendation on this property.
Correct.
Mr. DuPont, are you aware of this recommendation, sir?
So I have to open the files.
Please and thank you.
I can read
Maybe
the.
Mr. DuPont, or sorry, Mr. Wong, maybe you can read the property in while Mr. DuPont looks at your recommendation on this.
Yes, that sounds good. Okay, the subject property is 175 Greenway Crescent West. The file number is 24-2593. The roll number is 074-326-85000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $13,290,000. I'm recommending that the value be revised to 12,808,000 based off of an NOI of 704,000, and that calculation is on the page 7 of my brief. And
Thank you. Mr. Dupont,
Yeah, I accept.
one and done. Very well. We will move on to item 2, which is 1710 Portage Avenue. And Mr. Wong, if we can have your presentation on this property, would be greatly appreciated.
okay, the subject property is 1710 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2199. The roll number is 070-009-59000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is 25,472,000. This is a residential apartment that's 3 stories high, or sorry, 17 stories high. It was built in 1968, and it has 200 units with 141 indoor parking stalls and 63 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. It's near Polo Park Shopping Center. On page 4 and 5 is some pictures, more pictures of the subject properties and with some interior photos. So it does appear that the property is being or has been improved. On page 6 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,250 to get a potential income of $3,288,000. We used a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $2,922,000. And we used a 44% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $1,617,000. Capped at 6.35%, we have an estimated market value of $25,472,000, which is about $127,000 per unit and about $120 per square foot. On page 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates. And on page 9 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. The cap rates were calculated stabilizing 3 years of income and expenses prior to the year of the sale. And that was done for all the properties in the chart. On page 10 is a comparable sale, 32 Arden. It's a much smaller property with 23 units compared to the subject's 200 units, but it was built in 1969, and so it is of a similar vintage, although smaller. That one sold for about $125 a unit, or sorry, $125,000 a unit, and $147 a square foot, and this supports the assessed value of $127,000 a unit and $120 a square foot. The remaining parts of my brief are the income statements supplied by the owner. So the subject property, the model cap rate that it has been applied is supported by market sales, and the cap rate being 6.3%. In my experience, it should that appears to be a little bit high, so I could see that cap rate being a little bit lower, but the 6.3% is supported by market sales, and The model rent is supported by comparables and their actual rent, which is their actual rent is a little bit about 90,000 higher than what the model is estimated. But their actual expenses are fairly high, and you can see on page 14 their expenses are about $2.8 million compared to $3 million of income. And it appears that their expenses do include a lot of administration expenses that aren't typical of apartment operations. They have line items such as income tax provision in 2022, but they don't have that line item in 2021. They have a line item called representation and entertainment of 34,000 in 2022, but that line item in 2021 was $648. And another example is they have legal and consulting expense of 130,000 in 2022, but only 7,000 in 2021. So I think their expenses do appear to include some other administration expenses that probably are not typical of a normal operation of an apartment building. And so the 44% model expense ratio, it does appear to be reasonable considering this property is, as they say, meticulously maintained. And so that is in line with what the market is for expense ratios. And the model rent expenses and cap rate, they result in a value of about 127,000 per unit and $120 a square foot. This is supported by the comparable sale of 32 Arden, which is about 125,000 a unit and $147 a square foot. So the model value is supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $25,472,000.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Questions, Mr. DuPont?
Yes, a couple of questions. You're saying some of the expenses may not be normal. Have you done any further investigation to determine what it is and what it should be?
No, it's just it's not typical of what I've seen in expenses, and when they're varying in such a large way, it seems like it might be not necessarily the operations of the building, but maybe more the operation of the company or the group that is operating the building.
The owner, WRE or Lount Corporation, they don't operate an office there, head office there. Do you have any reason to believe that they would take expenses from another building to put in there?
I'm not sure, but I would believe, I mean, it appears that it's possible that the WE operations, maybe some of their expenses are being in there, which might explain the wide variation and an expense such as like representation and entertainment being being 34,000 in one year and nothing in another year. So this is like I said, their legal and consulting being 130,000 in one year and 7,000 in another year. Just doesn't it's not maybe what I would consider typical, but that's just what I guess my view.
Would you agree that it'd be more proper to say some of the expenses are not recurring than say that it belongs to another property or another company?
I'm not saying it belongs to another company, but it would be it would explain it if WE Corporation if the operation of the corporation did some of their expenses were listed here, it would make sense. But those expenses probably wouldn't be under the normal operation of the building.
But nevertheless, you did not do a site-specific analysis of the expenses. Would that be correct?
No, I didn't ask the owners what all the different line items were. I guess we just don't have the ability to do that. But the expenses that the models applied seem fairly reasonable for like a well-maintained building, and the resulting estimate of value seems to be fairly reasonable as well.
And you mentioned some of the photos that some of the suites were updated. You did not increase the effective age on this property.
It's possible, like we haven't inspected the property recently, and but just judging by some of the pictures, it looks like a effective age variant is warranted. But we would have to inspect the property to apply that.
Would you agree that virtually every property built in 1968 do not have the same floors and the same cupboards and the same appliances, and that apartments do upgrade and these items as they go along, maybe every 8 years, every 10 years, etc.?
I think sometimes I've seen apartments do a lot of it at once, and I've seen apartments do it some of it slowly. Whether they do it all at once or whether they do it slowly, it does, in my view, they appear to be capital in nature. And so we don't normally include capital expenditures in calculating the expenses for their net operating income.
Okay, nevertheless, it was not enough for you to think that you should increase the effective age.
Well, we would probably want to inspect the property before we applied the effective age variant. But like I said, looking at the pictures, if we inspected this property, it's likely we would apply some sort of age variant.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Ms. Knight, do you have questions at this point?
I do. We're on page 12 where it says interest expense Montrose. What's Montrose? Do you know? 295,000.
That's a mortgage. That would be a mortgage.
It's a mortgage, even though it says Montrose.
Yeah, Montrose is Montrose is a mortgage broker.
Oh, okay.
And-
Okay. That's okay. I just wanted to know what that was. That's good. Thank you. That's all I had to ask.
Thank you very much. Mr. Privé, what would you like to ask at this point?
I'm just looking at the pictures. The property description says there's 3 buildings. I see 2 towers. Is there like a garage or like a?
I'm not 100% sure about the third building, but I think the bulk of the property would be the 2 towers.
Yeah. Okay, so there's not a third like sort of low rise that you're aware of or something. It'd just be.
I'm not 100% sure. I can potentially take a look, but I'm not sure.
Okay, because yeah, then there's, and then I also see that there's a photograph of a pool area outside. Is there an indoor pool or anything like that in the property that you're aware of?
I am not aware if there's an indoor pool.
Okay, that's all my questions. I was just looking for a third building.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wong, is it possible that on page 3, the picture of the 2 towers show what appears to be underground parking garage? It appears to be some sort of almost a pedestal, really, where the 2 buildings go up from. Is that possibly a third building that's being talked about here?
That could possibly be it. And unfortunately, I can't say for 100% certainty without, I guess, looking into it a little bit more.
Okay. I believe those are my questions. Mr. Dupont, would you like to walk through your presentation at this time, sir?
Sure. Okay. We start, so we'll show the photos in the front. And there's certainly not another tower, but we can go to the building details in the appendix. Then we have the aerial map, page 6, and you can see that's right on Century, so it's high traffic And the entrance to this property is a bit difficult. They have to come from the next page, page 7. Difficult access and egress. So they come from Wolseley only, which is the Wolseley on the east side, and Wolseley going Snake towards Porters on the other side. And yeah, line 7 aerial photo, you would see they go underneath Wolseley, underneath the major route there. Then they have to go alongside Herzing College, come out on the other side. I did some of the maps here, but it's not that big of a factor. It's difficult to get access to, and there's a high traffic, so it's the balcony view would be high traffic and noisy. Now we can maybe go to the appendix. So page 18 is the ad from Lount Corporation. It's not WRE, I thought it was, but it's not. It's Lount Corporation. And so he shows a couple of photos, and I believe the same photos as Kim had. So page 20, it appears to have a vinyl plank there. And kitchen cabinet are shown there in this page 21. So they're not original cabinets for sure, but they're relatively plain cabinets, and flow form and some, to me, it appears to be old tile and backsplash. The next photo, page 22, they do have stainless steel appliances, which is a more modern. It doesn't have the bathroom, which tile versus maybe some newer ones would have touch around. Then they have another photo at the bottom with showing a balcony, vinyl plank floor. Then page 28 is the outdoor pool. Then page 29 is the assessor's workup, and that has the square footage at the bottom. The total square footage 260. Then building details are on the next page, page 30. Building 1, you can see that like the third line is story 17. Building 2 has story 17 and another 17, and then building 3 has 1 story. So there's no area for the second to the bottom. Then it has 48,000 square feet in the basement. So I guess it's the really the parkade that they call a building. Then the financials are start at page 32. We have our notes in there, and we X'd out certain amounts. As you can see, the bank interest, we never allow bank interest. We don't allow mortgages, don't allow depreciation, etc. We've disallowed interest expense in the middle. Montrose, we disallowed that, that. We disallowed the office rent, the land lease, depreciation. These are shown that for income tax purposes, you can deduct them, but not for valuation. And the next page, page 33, we disallow provision for income tax. We disallow donations for charity. And then in red, we show whether which items we put into repair and maintenance. The repair and maintenance, we have details of that, and it shows us to which area, whether it's in pest control or plumbing or fire, etc. So that's all our allocations that we do there, and we've done that for every year. Then we have the financials. So I believe we can go back towards our income approach. So page 13, the assessor has the cap rate 6.35, which we do not dispute. And we have a typo on top of page 13. That comes from another report, and I have to change these numbers every time, and I guess I forgot to change it on this time, but we don't dispute the cap rate 6.35. We show some of the factors it has on the comments. Shows amenities, balconies, outdoor pool, gym, common area with kitchen, pool table. Has a large number of suites, 200, and that's one of the reasons why it has a higher cap rate. That's near heavy traffic with difficult access and egress. Parking is 103% with 71% indoors. So the next page, page 14, my income approach. So we have the factors at the top left. We repeat those and we show the square footage, etc. on the top. We show the parking statistics of the building. And then line 3, we show the rent that it has, which is $11.52 per suite, 1968. So it has relatively large suite. And you can see above where I have the 1 bedroom, 62, 2 bedrooms, 134, and 3 bedrooms is 4. So they have 67% of the suites are 2 bedrooms. And that's one of the reasons they have the higher rent, because a higher number of 2 bedrooms. So that is reflected in the rents. And it's probably a bit higher than some because they just have more 2 bedrooms than normal. Then we add the laundry parking. We also add the talus, which is the rooftop antenna. So we include that as income. So line 13, we have 2,000,006 EGI and the assessor 2,000,009. So we're slightly higher, 80,000 or so difference. And I see similar. But then the expensive, you see line 31, we stabilize 1,515,000, the assessor 1,003,000. So we do have 200,000 difference in expenses. So we stabilize each individual item. Some of the items we do the most current year, such as insurance, utilities, caretaking usually, and taxes. We usually do the most current year because unless there's something erratic, and then we can do some averaging involved. The items that usually are done by averages are those that tend to be erratic, which is the professional fees, office, and sundry. Advertising also, that may not be too erratic. And the repair maintenance, we usually analyze 3 to 5 years. So we've done some the utilities. You can see the utilities line 23 is a bit erratic, 304, 298, 372. Should we stabilize that at the 3-year average? So it brings down the expenses as it works against the owner, but it was a fair thing to do because that had a relatively big increase. Line 16, professional fees. The management fees, some years they don't have it, some years they do, because it's self-managed. So therefore we allow 5%, which is a standard. Professional fees, it is 14,000, 13,900 and 211. So we disregarded the high year. So we average 2020, 2021. So when you have large properties, I guess you may get engineers' reports or designers' reporting, all sorts of things that may not be recurring. It's related to the property, but may not be recurring. Line 17, the office and sundry is also erratic. So we use the 3-year average for that. They do allow cable also. They pay for cable, line 24. Most apartments nowadays don't. So the landlord pays for cable. Therefore, that's another reason why the rents are higher, because the tenants will have to pay for the cable. The cable itself adds 4.9% to the expense ratio. So we would have a difference in the expense ratio, but some of it is due to cable. So the cable is related to the income. If the tenants would pay their own cable, they would likely reduce the rents by 148,000. So that would be lower income to start with. So we're being site specific, and therefore it's proper to deduct the cable. Other expenses, waste and snow, that tends to be erratic. We use a 3-year average, which is a normal way of stabilizing that. Caretaker, normally we use the most current year unless it's something unusual, and it's been quite erratic. So there we use in 2018 to 2020. We disallowed it in the 2 high years. Now 2020 is on the low side compared to all 5 years, but nevertheless we included that in the average that we use. So it comes out at 58,000. And then we do the taxes, at the actual taxes. So our expense ratio is 50.4%, which is not that high. And part of that is that they have the cable, which is about 5% in that. So without the cable, we would be pretty much the same expense ratio as the assessor. So then we have the cap rate 6.35, which is not disputed. The repair and maintenance line 27 is stabilized in 1962. Then the analysis is shown following. Financial statements don't give a breakdown, a detailed breakdown for all the years. They do for 21, 22, but not for the other years. So we showed these amounts. So that we stabilized 5 years, excluding the high year of 2020 there, shown there 515. And we showed the R&M per suite, showed 2,300, 22, 25, 18, and 13. Then we show the prior year, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. We show all the years. And the 10-year average is shown there, 2169, all the years. So the 2022 is inconsistent with what the prior 9 years. We settled 2020 municipal board at 1977 per suite. And also, it's what we use for 2023 at the board revision. So we are being consistent with prior years appeals and the 10-year average. So that would be my evaluation.
So you're seeking the value of 23,482,000?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, just regarding, I guess, the cap rate that you used, I guess, the assessment department 6.35. It seems to be a little bit outside the range that is indicated in your cap rate. Is there any reason why you're using the 6.35 versus the range that in your cap rate study?
We don't dispute the assessment cap rate. There's a range. Larger properties tend to have a higher cap rate. This is also built 1968, older. So I believe it the assessor's cap rate is appropriate for this property.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Privé, any questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the worksheets, and I'm just trying to figure out the two differences, I guess, between, well, the big one I'm seeing is your expense rate's higher than the city's. Is that correct? At 50.4%?
Versus the assessor 44.6, and that big difference is mainly in the cable.
Cable,
which is 4.9. So if the cable would be paid by the tenants instead of the landlord, we'd have the same expense ratio.
It's built into the rent.
Yeah, so normally it's built in the rent that the tenants pay for their own cable. In the old days, the landlord would pay because they get a better rate, and then they kind of pass it on to the tenants that way. So it's relatively unusual for a landlord to pay for cable.
Okay, and the city's got a vacancy rate of 2.6%. Are you accepting that, or I'm just looking on your spreadsheet and it doesn't?
We show it's included because the financial statements do not show vacancy.
Okay.
So they show rents received, they show the discounts, and then they show this is what we receive. So we're stabilizing it at actual vacancy, which is not shown by the landlord.
Okay. That's all of my questions. Thank you.
This night, questions?
Just the management fee. So it's charged in 2 years. One in 2020, it's 174. It's not charged in any other year. The average is 58, and you're saying that it's 150? Because
Yeah,
is that because it's 5%? It should be 5% of the
of the
of
income.
the
Yeah,
income?
5% is the standard.
Yeah.
And so when it's self-managed, we should not be looking at their fees at all. They may be putting higher fees to themselves. That's a way to pay themselves a salary some years. Other years they have zero. So that we should not be looking at that. And the municipal board has ruled relatively often that the 5% is a standard. And that's what we're going to use for all properties.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think I've had my questions asked and answered already. Thank you very much, Mr. Dupont, for your presentation. Any summation, either one of you gentlemen?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the next property on the docket. That's 3033 Portage Avenue. Mr. Wong, would you like to walk through your presentation at this time, please?
Yes, the subject property is 3033 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2918. The roll number is 074-382-63000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is $13,959,000. This is a residential apartment that's 13 stories high. It's built in 1988, and it has 116 suites with 70 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. It's near Portage Avenue and Sturgeon Road. On page 4 and 5 is some information on the subject property. See, they call it an active independent senior living community in Winnipeg. So it's considered, I guess, an assisted living type facility where their rents are fairly high, but it includes a lot of services. But you can see on page 4 and 5 are some interior pictures or photos of the property, and a little bit of the common spaces and the library and the hair salon. Yeah, because this property isn't your typical apartment, but it's an assisted living facility. But when the department is valuing it as if it was an apartment because it most resembles an apartment, and so we've used market or model parameters to value this property as an apartment. On page 6 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,085 to get a potential income of $1,510,000. We use a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $1,471,000. And we use a 49% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $746,000. Capped at 5.35%, we have an estimated market value of $13,959,000, which is about $120,000 per unit. On page 7 are our rent comparables, showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 8 is a comparable sale, just to show that the income value that we've estimated is in line with the market. So the sale of 32 Arden at $125,000 a unit and $147 a square foot. It supports the assessed value for the subject property at $120,000 a unit and $135 a square foot. On page 9 and 10 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.46 to 5.74%. on page 12 and 13. And the remainder of my brief is the income statements supplied by the owner. So once again, there's a lot of additional income and a lot of additional services, but we're going to value this as if it were a normal apartment building. So the model rent that has been applied is supported by comparable market rents. The expenses at about 49% is reasonable for a well-maintained 1988 building, which might have expenses in the mid 40s. And the overall value at about 120,000 a unit and $135 a square foot is supported by a comparable sale at 125,000 a unit and $147 a square foot. So valuing this as an apartment building, I feel that the assessed value is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $13,959,000.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Dupont?
Yes. So the subject property, you say they have common area rooms, etc. Do you know the suite sizes that it has?
I do not.
So would you agree, because it does have the kitchen and the common rooms, library, and dining rooms, etc. The suites would be smaller than normal?
I think that's typically been the case in my experience, that the units are typically a little bit smaller, but I think they also have a lot of common areas in terms of like dining areas, or say, as indicated in the pictures, they might have a library as well. I think like valuing it as a normal apartment, there are smaller suites, but it's also assigning some value to the noticeable common areas as well. So I think it's reasonable.
No, so your rents is model driven, not done on site specific. Have you done any analysis with CMHC rents or other rents other than what your model produces there on page 7?
Yeah, it's on page 7. The model it gives the model rents, but it also gives some market comparable rents as well.
So you page 7, 1780 Portage is number 3, and it has small suites there and relatively high rents. Are you aware whether this property has been renovated or not?
On 1780 Portage?
Yeah.
I am not aware.
Are you aware of any of the other 3, whether they were renovated or not?
I'm not aware.
That's all questions I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dupont. This night, questions?
I do not have any questions at this moment.
Mr. Privé, questions?
Yeah, have you visited the property?
I have not inspected the property.
Okay, I'm looking at the photos. Your page 4
Yes.
looks like it's a dining hall where it's all set out for a meal.
Yes.
And then the little clip there, there's a little, I assume from their website, the description there.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So they provide meals?
Yes, they do. Like this isn't.
You pay a lump sum and a portion's rent, a portion's your meals, that kind of
Yeah, yeah. You can see on page 4 that their rents start from $3,895. That typically includes like all. In my experience, it includes all their meals and other services and activities as well.
Okay, so do the units have kitchens, or do they have a full kitchen in each of those apartment units?
Some of these in in my experience, I think they typically they can have kitchenettes. So they might not have full kitchens because they have meals in their dining rooms. And so they probably have a very bare level of kitchen, like cooking capabilities in their units, because a lot of their meals are I guess, created in their commercial grade kitchen, and they're had in their common dining area.
Okay. So then when we look at the rent comps on your page 7,
Yes.
do those properties, are they also sort of these all-in retirement type buildings, or are they more traditional apartment buildings?
Yeah, they're more traditional apartment buildings, and like like at our department, we don't have sales of these assisted living type properties, and so we're assessing and valuing the properties as best that we can. And when you look at the properties that it's most similar to, it is, in our view, most similar to a regular apartment building. So we try to assign market rents and expenses and cap rates as if it were an apartment building to arrive at what I guess we feel is a fair and equitable market value. And I feel that I think we've done that because the resulting value is about 100, like the resulting assessed value is about 120,000 per unit. And as you can see on page 8, there's a sale of 32 Arden, which is, I guess, a normal apartment building, and it's sold for about 125,000 a unit and $147 a square foot. So we feel that we've been reasonably fair and equitable in terms of valuing this as an apartment building for assessment purposes.
Okay, but do you think that those other apartments then wouldn't have kitchenettes? They'd have a full kitchen with a stove and a larger fridge and
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
But they
happening.
also they wouldn't have a lot of the common areas and amenities that this property has. So I think it kind of like in my view, it kind of balances out a little bit in terms of them maybe not having a full kitchen. That, well, instead of having a full kitchen, they have a full dining room and a commercial kitchen for their, I guess, for their meals.
okay. Yeah, just because I know of other buildings. I don't know this. I didn't know this building was this type of a building.
Mhm.
I know of other ones, well, there's ones on the Sterling Line and stuff like that. Like they have it's a kitchenette, not a full kitchen. So
Yeah, they have there's different types of properties, and so you'd have to look at each one of them individually to see maybe what may or may not be unique about them. But in this, we try to value them as if they were regular apartment buildings, and in this case, the value that we've assigned, it appears to be fairly reasonable and fair in terms of the value.
okay, well, that's my questions. Thank you.
Very much. Mr. Wong, help me understand this a little bit better. I've been going through the financial statements that you've provided in the latter part of your brief. And you did say that the food is obviously included based on the fact that they're paying a fairly significant fee to live there, and they're all 1-bedroom units. I'm just looking through this, and forgive me, but maybe you can help me out. Is there a food expense that I'm not seeing that is there, or am I just missing it? Because I look at the total revenues, rental revenues are almost $3.8 million. And your rental, you're starting at $1.5 million approximately, $1.510 million. And is the balance of that $2.2 million, is that being attributed to food? And I just don't see where that is, sir. So could you help me along here, please?
Maybe to save some time, I don't rely on the financials whatsoever, either for income or expenses.
Okay, I appreciate
Uh,
that, Mr. Dupont.
uh,
I'm still curious because both of you, I'm assuming have, treated this like an apartment block, correct?
yes, yeah. So the only reason to look at the financials is just to know that this is something we would not be relying upon. So I did not study, and I don't think Kim has, and because normally we just disregard those statements.
That's
So
normal practice for these types of properties, Mr. Dupont, in your opinion?
what's that?
That's, your opinion to how these properties should be valued?
Yes, we don't use their actual rents actually because it includes the business, and we don't use the actual expenses because it includes business type expenses.
Yeah.
And it's too hard to try to extract the real estate portion from the rent and the expenses, and if we did, it would be very subjective. So we just abandoned that.
Yeah, and sorry, as I was looking through the financials, I'm thinking, well, certainly they must have, food expenses, et cetera, but I don't see any, and I don't see anything to the tune of $2.2 million. That's a fairly significant number.
Well, my statement for 2022 has that on the under food. I don't know where it would be on Kim's sheet. Would be page 14. Has some food costs there.
But that's, and again,
That's 238,000.
I saw that too, but that doesn't work out to $2.2 million of income being eaten up by the food part of it, right? And again,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand this because I'm looking at this really for the first time, so.
But it's not just food that's covering. They also come in and clean your apartment and they clean
Yeah.
everything. So
I
they
see
do
it,
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Supplies and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do see that,
Yeah.
all right.
I don't know. Probably the food should be higher than that. Yes. It seems a bit low. Maybe they don't feed them well. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Sorry.
Come on, Henry.
That's my client. You know, they feed them well. We know that.
All right.
Uh,
Well, I'm guessing then at this point that you're in the same boat I am. You have looked at this, you don't see any of
Yeah.
that additional expenditures. I don't know how they do their business, but you both have looked at this and determined you should use apartment parameters for this valuation, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't find any major food expenses, but it does appear that I guess a lot of their expenses are in their wages.
Mhm.
Yeah.
could be in contracts, could be hidden somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't see a large number for like a food contractor or, anything like that. I would have thought potentially they would have had some number like that included. I just don't see it. So
Yeah.
forgive me, both gentlemen, that I'm looking for something, I guess, that may not necessarily be there. They might look at this in a different way when they're doing their business valuation. I don't know. But okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mr. Wong. I appreciate the look at the financials. So, Mr. Dupont, I'd like to hear from you at this point, please.
Okay. Maybe we should just go to the well, we can go to the photo first page, and then we have the aerial photo page 2. And it shows where it is, and you see that it's landlocked. On one side, they have the Sturgeon Creek. And to have access on that, they have to go to other properties. It appears they go to property bottom right and the property in the middle. It appears that they have 2 parking lots going to 2 separate properties. Now the appendix, so that page 13, so I have the ad that starts. So spacious independent senior apartments. But then later on, they show the square footages, which are very small. Then this is apartment features, and it says full kitchen in units. Utilities included, etc. Amenities that shows what they have, the activity rooms and all that, which to be expected with this type of property. Then they have the plan on page 15. So they show kitchen on that plan at 560 square feet, L shape, and it appears to have a fridge on one side and a stove on the other, and the thing in the middle that's probably a sink. Not much place for a dining room. I don't think they have a dining room.
Oh.
And they have, I guess, a front closet, wasting a bit of space there. And then the other plan, the next page, page 16, is small kitchens, more of a walkthrough, but still small, and appears to be two appliances facing each other at the end there, and no dining room. So they're very small, 560 and 600 square feet. So they're small in relation to regular apartment blocks. The photos they show are more of the common rooms. I think we're all, not all, but they Cam had most of these same photos. They don't show the rooms at all. And then the financial statements, etc. It says 3 meals per day, activities, transportation, etc. So we totally disregard their income and expenses. So page 9. So built 1988, the cap rate, the assessor has 5.35. We have 5.85. So top of the page, I'm actually right there. I didn't make a typo. And for these types of properties, assisted living or independent living, we tend to have a premium. The boards have given premium for the fact to have small suites. And if it were put on the market, it would be totally different. It would be very difficult to operate other than an operation that gives the meals. So the parking is low at 61%. 99% are one bedroom with small suites, 560 to 600 square feet. It's a 4-suite mix. Has large number of suites, 115, social landlocked. So we give it a 0.35% premium over our base of 5.5 for that age group that we have for our cap rate. We do have a cap rate study, and just to say that we included it, and I don't intend to go through the whole thing unless you want me to, but our base is 5.5 and we're giving it a premium. And so with the next page, the income approach, the assessor has rents of $1,095 per suite, and we have $990. We believe $1,095 per suite for strictly the real estate for small apartments, 1-bedroom apartments, is unreasonable. We have in the middle of the page with some greens there. That's the CMHC rents. So the CMHC has rents for a 1-bedroom built 1975-88 for $1,091 and $601. I think that's wrong for the 2-bedroom. It should be less. For 100 units and over is 171, and St. James 1039, average rent's 1,100. And so if we give it 10% less than CMHC rent for the fact that it has small suites, we would use $990, so that we apply those rents, and that's what we arrive at our market rents. We use the same vacancy as the assessor. We use the same expense ratio, line 32. So we start less rent and the same expense ratios. We have line 33 net operating income 676 versus the assessor 746. And then we use a 0.35% cap rate over our base of 5.5, and the assessor at the 5.35. So our value comes to 11,559,000. And that would be my report.
To Mr. DuPont. Questions at this time, Mr. Wong?
Yes, on page 14. It's, I guess, listing a decent amount of amenities such as like the patio or balcony, the full kitchens, the community rooms. And it has like a common kitchen for residents and dining room with full table service. So those are all, I guess, amenities that are available to the tenants.
Yes.
Okay. And on page 16 and 17. Um, would you say, like, based on the pictures, the property is well finished and well kept?
Yes, it appears to be both. Yes.
Okay. And I guess going back to page 10. It just sort of seems like the property has a good amount of amenities and common areas and large balconies, and it's well finished and well kept. But you feel that 10% downward adjustment in the rent and a 0.35% upward adjustment in the cap rate is warranted?
Yes, the remarks are shown on line 2 is that the city increased the rents by 13.2%. So this property is facing a relatively large increase, mainly because the city increased the rents by 13.2. That's one of the reasons I decided not to accept the city's rents and go look at CMHC rents. And the discount I give 10%, that includes the fact that they have other common rooms, etc. If they did not, it would be a bigger discount.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Perez, what would you like to ask in questions?
Yes, I'm just going to go back to page 10. Your spreadsheet. One moment here, I'm just rotating it so I can read it a little bit easier. You've got a little workup in there for the rent averages.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I apologize if you clarified and I just had turned my ears off or something. There's an adjusted average. So you say the average rents are $1,100 per month for 1 bedrooms, and then it's a 10% adjusted average to $990.
Yes.
Okay, can you explain where that adjustment comes from, or what the basis for the adjustment is?
That is a judgment call. For social housing, the assessment department usually does the same table, and they usually adjust the rents downward by 15 to 20% because it's social housing, and that's just a judgment call on their part, and it's a judgment call on my part also. The fact it has very small suites, and they have 63% parking, so they don't have parking for all the tenants, etc. So it's a judgment call that to give a 10% discount.
Okay. But also the cap rate, your cap rate's higher than the city's as well because of those to adjust for the small.
It's a higher risk. It's a high risk property. It has a business component in there. If the business component would not be there, they would have more difficulty renting it. So it's typical to allow for a higher cap rate for independent living and assisted living properties due to higher risk from the fact that it has a business and problems if they were to convert.
Okay. So basically, I mean, the Kiltartan towers that we just dealt with, put it for sale sign up on those, lots of people interested, or more people interested in buying those than to buy this tower, because this tower comes with a whole other component.
That's right. Most of the property owners that operate apartments would be a very low interest for something like this. So if this business failed and it didn't work out, it may be more difficult to sell. So there's a risk premium that should be associated with these types of properties.
And you don't think that's built in with the reduction on rents? Like it's sort of seems like a double dip to me, and I'm happy to have you explain why it.
Yeah, no, it's same thing if you value an old apartment block, right? So that the older apartment block gets, the higher the cap rate is, and so those older apartment blocks have lower rents also. So you say, why should we not have the same cap rate for every age group? Because we're adjusting for the rents in the age. So the cap rate adjusts for the risk. So the same thing as buying a Canada bond versus a corporate bond. There's less risk in the AAA and the government bond. So this is the income that you receive and what's the risk associated with the income. So the rent comparable, the adjustment is for the income, and then the cap rates to adjust for the risk. So they're two separate things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the difference in the numbers. Just those two numbers seem to be the big difference between going.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and they should be treated differently. And you may even have an apartment higher rents than normal, and you accept those higher rents, and then you adjust for the risk in the cap rate. So the cap rate is mainly the return on investment. It has nothing to do with the rent level, which may be higher or lower than normal.
Okay, thank you. That's all of my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, questions?
Do you have 3 years worth of income statements?
I don't know. The assessor would show whether they give statements for 3 years.
No, I'm asking you, not the assessor. I'm asking you. You're only showing 1 year. All your other statements have shown 3 years. So where's your other years?
Oh, well, because we disregard the statement, so we don't rely on them. So whether we show 1 year or 2 years, same thing. We just don't rely on them.
Okay.
It's
And
irrelevant. Sorry.
Your vacancy here is very low, correct?
Yes.
Because there's a waiting list to get into these places, correct?
It could be, but if you treat it as a market, and the business failed and they were put on the market, the vacancy may be higher by the fact that it has small suites. So we just use the assessor's vacancy.
So have any of these assisted livings been put on the market recently?
Of course, there would be on turnover. There would be.
They have?
She's asking if there's been sales, Mr. Dupont.
Oh, put on the market to sell. Oh, okay.
We're just building more and more of them. That's why I'm asking you.
And when there is sales, it includes the business there again. So therefore, we don't rely on sales of assisted buildings also, because it's hard to extract.
But they're still staying, when they sell, they're still staying as an assisted living building. So they're not changing to something else. They're still an assisted living building.
Yeah, I most of the time when they change hands,
right.
That's what.
But other than that, they're not changing to something else.
No, I
okay.
Don't know of anyone that was converted. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, thank you very much, by the way, Ms. Knight. My questions, I think, have been asked and answered, though. I would agree that Ms. Knight's question with respect to a waiting list for these types of properties is very common. And in fact, they appear to be building more and more of them, Mr. Dupont. And yet you're suggesting that there's somehow additional risk here. And I don't think I follow quite that logic in that respect, sir. Is there something that I'm missing with this, with respect to that, sir?
The vacancy that it has, the occupancy and the rent that it has is relating to a business and real estate. And what we're valuing here today is real estate only. So when you're saying there's a waiting list, there's a waiting list for the business part also. That's so that it maybe it popularly due to the business part of this.
It very well may be, but there is a waiting list to get into these type of places right now, all over the city.
I would think so. Yeah. And
And you
we've
can't
had,
really get in here till you're 55 or 60, and that's a very young age to get into these properties, correct?
yeah, it'd be, yeah, young. Yeah, the
And
average age
you
would be
wouldn't get
over
in here if you just lived off your, uh, if you didn't have a pension.
Yeah, it's too expensive
Yeah.
for people that what I guess normal salaries or pensions, whatever.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So it's more a higher end. Yeah,
Sorry
you
to
need.
cut you off there.
No. It's sorry. No, I realize that for all of us that are looking at that for ourselves or our parents, whatever, and we know it's on the high end.
Yeah,
For
very
sure.
much so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you again. I believe, Mr. Dupont, my questions now have been asked and answered. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
This night went down the road I was going down, or
Yeah, I just wanted to
know.
get there.
I appreciate having it being done, so thank you. Is there anything that either one of you would like to summarize on this property, gentlemen?
Yeah, maybe just quickly that the like the applicant has maybe applied the negative aspects of the property in terms of the small suites and sort of made adjustments based off of those negative aspects. But I'm not sure if ignoring the positive aspects is fair in terms of there being more room and more amenities to attribute no value to that. Whereas like the approach that I've taken is just or that the department has taken is to just look at it as if it was a normal apartment building, and the resulting value is like a reasonable value. It seems to be fair and equitable considering the age and condition and the finish of the building. So I feel that the assessed value is, I guess, fair and equitable, and ask that you maintain the assessed value.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Any final thoughts, Mr. Dupont?
Yes, the assessment went up because the city increased their rents by over 13%, and so believe that it would be appropriate to check the rents, and so we reduced the rents by comparing to CMHC. And these type of properties do have a higher risk because of the small suites that they have, and harder to put on the market if there were no business attached to it. And so the premium is usually applied to these types of properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Appreciate your submissions, both gentlemen. We should move on to the next property on the docket. Does anyone need a break to stretch their legs, or is everyone good still?
Okay for now.
Yeah, me too. I'm good.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we'll continue on then, gentlemen, and ladies. My apologies. So, Mr. Wong, we will go to 3563 Portage.
Oh, that's a.
And I believe that's the next property. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have a revision on this property also, correct?
I do. I can maybe go through the file and then maybe have
please.
Mr. Dupont respond, maybe.
Yeah, that would be exactly what I was hoping for. So
Okay.
Please go ahead and we'll go from there.
Okay. The subject property is 3563 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2606. The roll number is 072-194-20000. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is 15,359,000. I'm recommending that the value be revised to 14,036,000 based off of the calculation on my page 7.
Right?
Okay, I accept.
Thank you.
Very quick.
Why so quick?
Yeah, surprised you guys, right?
No surprises here, Mr. Dupont. We're happy to hear that the assessor and you come to an agreement of sorts. Right on. Thank you. Just give me a moment, please. All right. This brings us to item number 5, and this being 230 Fairlane Avenue. Mr. Wong, your submission, please.
Thank you. The subject property is 230 Fairlane Avenue. The file number is 24-1488. The roll number is 072-194-35300. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is 24,111,000. This is a residential apartment that's 3 stories high. It was built in 1978, and it has 208 suites with 292 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 are some interior pictures of the subject property from their website. So as with some of the other properties, it appears that the property is well kept / improved. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $1,150 to get a potential income of $2,872,000. We used a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $2,797,000. We used a 47% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $1,470,000. Capped at 6.1%, we have an estimated market value of $24,111,000, which is about $115,000 per unit. On page 6 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is a summary of the income and expenses. See, for their 2022 income was $3,019,000. Their expenses were $1,924,000, but it includes major repair and replacement amounting to $581,000. So those items, in my view, are capital expenditures. So if we remove those capital expenditures, the expense total is $1,342,000, and their net operating income is $1,677,000, which is a couple of $100,000 higher than what the model has estimated at $1,470,000. And just on the bottom of page 7 are those major repair and replacement items. You can see that the top item is like an AC replacement and appliance replacement and cabinet replacement, countertop replacements, and some exterior major repairs, some painting and staining, there's some flooring in-suite replacement, and like a hot water tank replacement. I think like it appears that in my view, a lot of these are capital expenditures. There it does appear to be some items like maybe some painting and staining that could be considered repair and maintenance. But I think generally speaking, it seems like the items are capital expenditures in nature, and removing them is reasonable. But even if you did include some of it, it would still the net operating income would still be probably a little bit higher than what the model is. And so I feel that the calculation that you see on top is reasonable in terms of removing the capital expenditures. On page 8 and 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates and some cap rate sales that range from 3.46% to 5.74%. The remainder of my brief is the income statement supplied by the owner. So to conclude, I feel that the actual net operating income, less major repair and replacement and some capital items, it supports the model's net operating income. The model cap rate is supported by market sales, and the overall value at about 115,000 per unit is supported by comparable sales. And I feel it's fairly reasonable considering that the units appear to be renovated. So I feel that the assessed value is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 24,111,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Dupont, do you have questions of the assessor at this time?
No.
Fair enough. Ms. Knight, do you have questions of the assessor?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Privé, any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Thank you. And I'm just noting on page 7, you've created an income and expense summary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you've taken these right from the financial statements, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, it's on the financial statements in the back of my brief
Okay.
on page 11.
And removing the major repairs and replacement that you spoke of, that you
Yes.
felt were more capital in nature, leaving you with and then net operating income of $1,677,498, and yet you're at $1,342,435, and you feel that you are justified that, or sorry, you're at $1,477,446. My apologies, that's an NOI.
Yeah.
So you're about $200,000 less in NOI, and you're still satisfied with that, sir?
I am satisfied, especially considering, like, I think there are some of the items in major repair and replacement, like the painting, some of the painting and staining that might be maybe less not capital. But even if you added some of those items into their expenses, it would probably still result in a net operating income that is very supportive of the model. And so, and like I said, when you look at the overall value, I feel that the overall value is fair and equitable. So that's why I maybe I guess didn't seek an increase for the property because of those things. The value seems reasonable, and yeah, I guess it's just the overall value is fair and equitable, I feel.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Mr. Dupont, would you like to walk through your presentation at this point, sir?
Yeah, so the main difference would be in the expenses, and the main difference in the expenses would be in the repair maintenance, and Cam alluded that to his in his brief where he disallowed something like 581,000. So the whole thing will revolve around that. So we can go to the pictures, and photos and the maps and etc. to start with. So the first photo, you'll see that. So you have the exterior surface with the wooden stairways up there, and then a lot of exterior surfaces, wood, etc. They're all asphalt shingles roof compared to a high rise. It has a very small roof for a whole bunch of properties. This has a lot of amounts of roofs. Then page 2, it shows the areas that it has, the balconies. It's all balconies or entrance, which is also wood, which requires maintenance. So then it has a pool, and that requires maintenance also. So sure it'll show up in the rents, but then it should also show up in the expenses because you have to maintain those pools. And then on page 2, you have the balconies from the rear. You can see that, so they have balconies at the rear. In the front, there's more the walkways for the entrances. And then page 3, we have the aerial photo. So we have a breakdown of the description. It says high maintenance for wood frame, 5 appliances. So more appliances you have, the more repair maintenance. Most apartment blocks will have 2 or 3 appliances. They don't have the washer and dryer. This has also fireplaces, which require repair maintenance. Large parking lots, exterior pool, exterior stairways, walkways, a bunch of walkways and sidewalks, etc., which we now have with a lot of apartments. Multiple windows and doors, the elevator for the 3rd floor, private entrances, private exterior entrances, patios, large balconies, multiple roofs, multiple hot water tanks. Small apartment block, you would have to replace your hot water tank every 15 to 20 years. But with these types of properties, they tend to be recurring. Multiple exterior services, sidewalks, landscaping. These factors are all also captured in the rent. So they can charge rent because of those factors, but then they have to spend more to maintain these properties. So they're called garden style apartments, and those are high maintenance properties. Then we have the aerial photo and the map. I believe we can leave that and just go to the appendix. Page 18. So they have the photo and some of the verbiage there. What they're mainly describing there is the location, and then the next page, page 19, is the amenities that they have. Show the pools, the private entrances, elevator, etc. And these are all the items that you capture in the rent, and you should capture in your repair maintenance also. And apartment amenities, it says air conditioning. They have the air conditioning in the living room, which is only one suite, one room in the suite. It has outdoor storage, also dishwasher and suite and laundry, so the washer and dryer in the suite, fireplace, stove, and fridge. Then we have the photos, page 20. You have some vinyl plank flooring there, and I believe, dining room is also vinyl flooring in this photo. And then you have the fireplace, the Molly C shown in the living room on page 20, bottom page 20. And page 21, so the top kitchen is older style, white appliances, and the bottom kitchen is newer style and the stainless steel kitchen, newer cabinets. The other one is older cabinets. I guess they're all flow form. They're both flow form. Then the bedroom, the next page is a carpet. And so there's not vinyl plank all over the place. And there's the bathroom there. There appears to be tile instead of tub surround. Still in relatively good condition. And the washer and dryer shown as a photo as a feature, but also an expenses. They have to replace those every 8 to 10 years. And page 23, the balcony, a very large balcony. And the pool, didn't have the floor plans, they're a bit fuzzy. And I don't think it's much of a issue with the floor plans. They're relatively good floor plan, decent size, etc. Then we could skip the assessor's data on this. We have the financial statements, page 31. You'll see that's the type of statement they have. They have the revenue, then the expenses. Then the second page 32, have some more expenses. And then the next page 33, they have the repair maintenance. And we have our items in red font. That's how we allocated those repair maintenance expenses. Then page 34, you have a category right on top. It's hard to read, but we can read it. Hard copy. It says major repair and replacement. So they have some more of those. It shows where we color coded as to how we allocated it. So we have that for each and every year. So I think we can skip that. We have the statements for every year. Page 13, start of our cap rate description. So the assessor's got 6.1. We do dispute the cap rate. We give some of the factors it has there, the multi-buildings, garden style, and all the factors, amenities. Large number of suites is 208, so it's part of the cap rate at 6.1 due to a large number of suites. Page 14 is the main spreadsheet. You see the rents that it has a high amount of discount, so they have those rents which are, I guess, the rents that are approved for rent control, but they give the discounts. Then also the vacancies are higher than normal. So we stabilize at their actual vacancy and actual discounts they have for 2022. We had the parking from 2022 and the average for miscellaneous income. We showed the 5 years. Miscellaneous tends to be erratic. We had the one high year than 2021. So we stabilized that to 5 years in 2021. Expenses, we stabilized pretty much normal way. So everything's relatively normal as to how we stabilize. Usually it's the most current year. For some of the expenses, some of the items that tend to be erratic, we use the averages. And the repair maintenance, line 27, as our main dispute, we stabilize at $33.99 per suite. Now we'll say right off the bat that it's much higher than most apartments, but it's not out of line with other garden style apartment blocks. And then line 31 says expenses are only dispute. We have 52.6% expense ratio. The assessors at 47%. The city was 59% for 2023, and that's a big drop now. And so our net income, line 33 is 1394 versus the assessor 1470. And then other remarks, we repeat again what we had in the body of our report, all the items that require high maintenance. Those are all the items recognizing the rents, the fact they have 5 appliances and a pool and fireplaces and large landscaping, but they have a whole bunch of exterior services, a whole bunch of roof, a whole bunch of hot water tanks, etc. So page 15 is our stabilization and repair maintenance. So on top, the roof, like you see, there's very little roof spent. So these are mainly repairs. We allow repairs of the roof. We don't allow for a whole replacement. Windows and doors is done on an ongoing basis. Because if you have an older property like that, you have to replace your windows and doors, and maybe somebody will do it all at one time, but most properties will do it on a recurring basis. If you're buying a property like that, they will not have all the windows and doors replaced. And so therefore, as a buyer, you have to continue the recurring program of replacing the windows and doors. The pool there shown expenses that's recurring every year, and that adds $94. So we stabilized that to repair maintenance in the parking lot that we allowed is $27. So that adds 27 to the repair maintenance. General building, we allowed that at the 5-year average. Items we disallowed are in red. So the painting was high in 2022, 99,000 versus the other years. So we average 2020, 2018, 2021. And that comes to 205 per suite, and we have the maximum per suites. That is what we've determined if you replace items, the flooring and appliances over an 8-year period. If you're above the 500 per suite for flooring, that means you're not doing it on a recurring basis. You're doing it in very large amounts. So these are below these maximums, so therefore they're on a recurring basis. And then we disallow the painting covers, we max them out. And then we have the electrical, plumbing, etc. for these other items that we've allowed, and it's all recurring. We've allowed them out on the 5-year average. That comes to $29.70 per suite. It's shown in yellow. That's before we get to the major expenses. So Rancho has another category. They have major expenses. Those are recurring also. So the parking, they show it twice, once under regular expenses and one under major. And there that they have it's very erratic, and we stabilize at the 5-year average. Hot water tanks, because they have many, it's on a recurring basis. They have costs every year. We allow that at $69 per suite. Windows and doors, we allow them again. They show in the regular expenses, and they show them again on their major expenses. The roof, they shown, and we disallow the roof. We allow repairs of the roof, but not replacements. So we did not allow those roofs. So the recurring major expense is $429 per suite. $33.99 per suite that we allowed. And we started in 2010 when I had a property that was going to the municipal board. We had the assessor inspect. Rancho owns quite a few garden style apartments. They all have high maintenance. And there we had settled with the assessor. We were not going with a normal repair maintenance. And we've been doing the high repair maintenance for those properties. Shelter has a whole bunch also. And we've gone all the way to municipal board on those. We've settled them all. And we're not giving in on the repair maintenance. We're going with those high maintenance. Those are high maintenance properties. And we allow those expenses. We may negotiate here and there for an item here and there, saying you should maybe exclude 1 year or something. But in general, we do not disallow these items. We do them when they're on a recurring basis, we allow them. And that's how we've been doing it for years and years. And the assessor has agreed to us when we get to the municipal board. They have agreed to all those expenses. They're not saying we disallow major expenses. We've never agreed to remove the major expenses from the rancho or the shelter properties. That would be my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Questions of Mr. Dupont, Mr. Wong?
No questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Purvey, questions?
I don't have any questions right now. Maybe someone else might trigger one, but I don't have one right now.
This night, questions?
Oh, no, sir.
All right, I note that at the end of the day, the percentage difference between the expenses is basically about 5%. And I see a note that you've put in your on page 15 that previously the city used 59% as expenses. But you're both gentlemen, you are Mr. Dupont, you're at 52.6 and the city's at 47.4, correct?
Yes, we're both much lower than 2023, the assessor had. I don't know, for some reason, they dropped their expense ratio by 12%. For garden style apartments, the 47% is on the low side. And even though I allow 33.99 for repair and maintenance, the 52.6 is not that high as an
But
expense
I'm noting
ratio.
that's the reason why
Yeah,
I'm asking the question, going, well, you've gone on at some degree talking about all the additional expenses, but yet your expense difference is, like I say, about 5%.
yeah, and it's not above normal, so it's not. Yeah, it's not that abnormal, and yeah, I note your point, and I agree. Yeah.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much for that. Just give me a moment if you don't mind. Okay. Thank you very much. We should move on to the next property. That being 234 Ronald Street. Mr. Wong, please.
Thank you. The subject property is 234 Ronald Street. The file number is 24-2804. The roll number is 070-717-05100. The roll year is 2025, and the assessed value is 22,520,000. This is a residential apartment. It's 15 stories high. It's built in 1970, and it has 148 suites with 124 indoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location, just on near Portage Avenue by the Grace Hospital. On page 4 is a description of the property from the property manager. And it also, these units also appear to be improved. Yeah.
Looks like it's time to get some inspections out there, Mr. Wong.
I think we'll try to get to it, I guess, after the appeal cycle. On page 5 is our income valuation summary. We used average rents of $1,359 to get a potential income of $2,414,000. We used a 2.6% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $2,351,000. And we used a 43% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $1,339,000. Capped at 5.95%, we have an estimated market value of $22,520,000, which is about $152,000 per unit and $167 a square foot. On page 4 are some rent comparables showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. On page 7 is a comparable sale at 1833 Pembina Highway. The property is built in 1972, similar to the subject property that's built in 1970. They're both renovated, and the Pembina property sold for about 160,000 a unit, or $182 a square foot. And I feel that supports the assessed value at 152,000 a unit and $167 a square foot. On page 8 and 9 is information on how we derived our cap rates, with some cap rate sales that range from 3.4 to 5.74%. On page 11 is the income statement supplied by the owner. You can see my note at the bottom. It says the repair and maintenance is at $3,000 and $4,100 per unit for 2022 and 2021, respectively. So we don't have the details on the repair and maintenance, but it does appear that they do include capital expenditures in their repair and maintenance, and it kind of corresponds with the improved nature of the units that were, I guess, indicated on my page 4. And so the model rents that the model has applied, they're supported by market rent comparables, and their actual rents support the model rent as well. The model cap rate is supported by market sales, and the model expenses are lower than their actual expenses, but it does appear that they include some capital in their repair and maintenance. Like I said, with their repair and maintenance being at $3,000 and $4,000 per unit, and with the improved nature of the suites, it does appear that they are including some capital in their repair and maintenance. So I believe that if you remove those capital items, the actual expenses would be a little closer to the model. So I feel that the model expense rate is fair. So the overall value at 152,000 a unit is also supported by the sale of on Pembina Highway at 161,000 per unit, which is a similar age property and a similarly renovated property. So the assessed value, I feel, is well supported, and I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $22,520,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wolin. Mr. Dupont, questions of the assessor, please.
That sale you show on page 7, though, was that property renovated in any way?
Yeah, it's been improved. Yes.
And would you agree that when we come here, we're not doing a direct comparison approach, we're doing income approach?
Well, I think in valuation, you can use the income approach, and in valuation, you actually look at the 3 approaches. But in this particular case, I think we can use the direct comparison approach just to validate the income approach that we've taken, because within the income approach, you can take you can make adjustments to the income, or you can make adjustments to the repair and maintenance items that you allow. You can make adjustments to the cap rate, but does your income approach and the adjustments that you've made result in an accurate estimate of value? And it appears that the model's income estimate of value it does reconcile with the market, and so I feel it helps validate or it helps verify that the income approach that we've taken does result in a reasonable estimate of value.
Do you know what the features of the 1833 Pembina is? Whether it has balconies, whether the flooring has been redone, whether they have quartz countertop or anything, or do you know how much parking they have? Do you know anything of those details?
I'm not sure about those details, but actually, I don't think they have balconies as compared to the subject, which does have balconies. But I do know that the Pembina property was renovated, and it appears to be the subject property is renovated as well, so it seems like a reasonable comparison.
Your expense ratio of 43%, I believe it's the lowest one the docket today. And would you agree that 43% is usually quite low for a property at this age and type?
I think in my experience, it is on the lower end of the range. But like I said, when you look at the estimated net operating income combined with the cap rate, it does seem to result in a value that is in line with the market.
Do you know why the model gave it a low expense ratio?
I'm not sure. It could be the location or the condition attributes. I'm not totally sure.
It's all questions I have.
Thank you very much. Ms. Knight, questions?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kirby, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. And I don't believe I have any questions either. So, Mr. Dupont, can we hear your presentation at this time, please?
Sure. So we got a photo, page 1. Then we have the maps. And it's off Portage, so it's a bit of a ways to get to the bus stop on Portage. It's not on Portage, so the location is totally fine, but it's off Portage. And the appendix is managed by Globe General. I inspected those properties for our 2012 appeal that we did at municipal board. And one of the things I was surprised is that, like most apartment blocks, I have a laundry room on each floor. This one has a laundry room only in the basement. So tenants all have to go all the way down to the basement to do their laundry. And then page 17, it shows their amenities that it has: air conditioning, balcony, etc., elevator, dishwasher. It says does not apply to all the suites.
Sorry, before you go on, that says 2727 Portage, but we're looking at 234 Ronald, are we not?
Oh, that of course is St. James. It includes the commercial at 2727 Portage. It
Okay,
includes 200 Ronald, 233 Booth. So that is actually 3 separate roll numbers for the course of St. James.
okay, go ahead. Sorry, I just thought we were in the wrong place.
Yeah, no, that's commercial part. So they're connected to underground to the shopping center at
Okay.
2727 Portage.
Okay,
The page 18 has floor layout. So they have the studio. It's relatively small, 459 square feet. It shows the kitchen there, a very small little U shape. No dining room, combination living room, bedroom, because that's a bachelor. And then the next page is the another bachelor, 484 square feet, with my comments, similar comments. The one bedroom, 758 square feet, small kitchen. So it's a walk-through kitchen, a very small dining room. It's only 8 by 7 feet 8 inches, quite small. And the rooms are the other rooms, bedroom, it's not that bad, 10 feet wide, etc. Then the 2 bedrooms, 959 square feet, so that's a better size. That'd be a good size. The kitchen is still relatively small, 8 feet by 8 feet. Dining room's still small, 8 feet wide by 11. Then the other rooms are fair size. And then I have a 3 bedroom, one plan for that, not many of those. And Then we have the photos. So the page 23. So they have carpet there. Those two photos. And Globe puts in digital furnishings in their photos, so they do well in presenting those photos instead of being vacant. They furnish them. So then we have the kitchens on page 26. White appliances, vinyl flooring. So it's still old type. It's not stainless steel appliances, and they have the carpet in the bedroom also, and tile floor, tile walls for the bathrooms. You don't have the newer tub surrounds. They have a pool and a gym. So I don't think we can say it's renovated. It's very well kept. They spend money. Globe spends money on their repair maintenance. They tend to repaint every time there's a turnover in a suite. So I believe now we can go to my spreadsheet. Page 11 on the cap rates, we have the building amenities and the finishes and the factors. We went through that with the photos and that. So 79% parking only, laundry facilities all the way down in the basement. Still some of the older finishes like vinyl flooring and carpeting. So the spreadsheet page 12, we have some of these factors shown top right. Shown there, we have the sweet mix. It's not a bad sweet mix. They have a mix of everything. The bachelors have 10% bachelors, which are inferior suite. There's only 10%. And they have fair amount of 2 and 3 bedrooms. So the rent they have at 1301 is relatively on the high side for 1970 building. Part of that is that they have maybe more 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. So that they have, and anyways, they get the rents that they have, they push the rents and they get the market pushback with the vacancy 6.6, 4.8, 4.1 over the years. We stabilize at 4.1. We stabilize the bad debt, the 3-year average. Then we add the laundry and parking, and then line 13, we're similar to the assessor. We're actually 28,000 higher. Percentage wise is very, very small. And insurance is relatively low, 20,000 for a large project like that. It is low due to a large portfolio, so I guess they have better rates because they have a large portfolio. So most items are stabilized relatively normal for the way the standard. The repair maintenance, we did a site-specific repair maintenance, and we stabilized at 22.33 per suite. So then line 31, you'll see that we dispute the expense ratio only. We're a bit higher on the rents. We're same cap rate, so the expense ratio or the expenses, stabilized expenses are main dispute. So our expense ratio is 49.7. The assessor is 43%, which is on the low side for a property like this. Then the expenses are repair maintenance on page 13. For Globe General, the financial statements, you show just only total repair maintenance. So the assessor does not have a breakdown. What Altus have been giving us for years, their general ledgers. We provided the general ledgers to the assessor for the municipal board case we did in 2012, which is about 50 pages for every year. So 5 years would be more like 250 pages. It's a huge amount of data. And if we go to municipal board, we'll gladly give those general ledgers if the assessor wants them. So we stabilize a general building. We showed the 1 high year shown in red, and then we multiply by 50%. So we cut down the expenses Globe actually spends. The flooring, we do it the 5-year average, it's 443, which is under the maximum of 500. So they appear to be replacing their floors upon turnover. It's close to an 8-year replacement cycle. The appliances is on the low side, $93 versus the $225 for the 8-year replacement cycle. Painting, which all the Globe properties are higher than what we consider to be average for other apartment blocks. It's mainly because they said they repaint virtually every suite that's vacant. So upon turnover, they repaint. So we brought it down to our maximum, which makes the 51% of the actual expense. Other expenses like plumbing and electrical, elevator, we removed the high years. We show what they are. So when we get our stabilized, we get 2233. Then the repair maintenance per suite, excluding the capex one above, shown for every year, 2,600, 32, 34, 32, 26. The average they spend is 3,063, but then we remove some of the high years, etc. We do some of the maximums for painting and other things. So therefore, we bring it down to 2233, which is very reasonable in relation to what they're spending on a recurring basis on this property. So the reason they get the higher rents, part of it, so they have a lot of 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, but also for a level of repair maintenance. So they're spending their money on the turnover of the suites on a recurring basis. So that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dupont. Mr. Wong, questions of Mr. Dupont?
No questions.
Thank you. This night, questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Purvey, questions?
Yeah, you said this building is part of the Courts of St. James. There's 3 apartment towers and then a 4th building being the mall that I guess connects it all. Is that
Yeah.
okay? And because you did mention that the parking, that the ratio wasn't, that not everyone got one. Do the tenants in this building have access to those other buildings and the other parking?
If I guess the landlord, if they have some available from the other apartment blocks, they may do that, but they need the parking in each of these properties. So this property itself has low parking or not full parking.
Or are they managed is it managed collectively, like the whole?
Oh yeah.
Complex.
Globe General manages the whole thing. Yeah.
And is it the same ownership group for each of the towers, or is this ownership group different from the ownership group of the property on Booth? Or
I do know in the past, when Globe bought it, they had a relatively low percentage, like 10 to 25%, and over the years they bought out their partners. So they may be 100% owned by Phoenix Enterprise. There may still be some partners involved though. So in the past, they had different partnership, but they had to buy over time from the different partners that were different for each of the buildings. So that I'm not sure specifically, but I did know that in the past they had partners.
okay. And your higher vacancy rate with this property, can you just explain a little bit more about that for me? I'm not fully grasping why this property has a higher vacant. Like most of the other vacancy rates today, you would agree with the city. So the residential vacancy rates in the city are fairly low. Why this property would be higher than that average?
Well, it's part of the Globe management style. They push their rents as high as possible, and they push it until the market pushes back. So you have some people that won't be testing the market, but Globe is testing the market at all time. So the vacancy here is due to the fact they're charging $1,300 in rents. That's relatively high for 1970 building. And so that's 4.1% the vacancy has. It's due to the level of rent the condition has. It's a market pushback.
Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. This night I did go to you already, did I not?
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Thank you
I'm
very
good.
much. Sorry, just wanted to make sure I didn't go around. And I think my questions have been asked and answered at this point again. Gentlemen, I thank you for your presentations. Do you have any final summation, either of you?
No, thank you.
None for me.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. With that, we have heard all items scheduled, and this hearing now is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time and your patience, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope, thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Okay,
Henry.
good night. Okay, good night.
Good night.